Welcome to the Private Chef podcast. I'm your host, Hennche. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Chef Dante. He began his career at the bottom of the kitchen as a dishwasher and now serves as a private chef to prominent clients. We will hear about his inspiring journey from humble beginnings as a chef de partie to becoming a job champion. He will share how he fell into the culinary world, dropped out of culinary school, landed positions with some A-list clients, including Madonna, Jimmy Buffett, Paul McCartney, and Bon Jovi. Thank you for joining us today, Chef Dante. Psychology of invoicing. And I'm wondering,
Yeah.
you can pack it all in one number, but then the number might look huge. Like then they might compare it to someone else. And it might look like a lot. But then if you itemize it and you're like all these little line items, like I don't know. I was always in the camp, I'm like, I want them to understand what my fee is and what their cost is to receive the service. That's how I try to itemize it. I'm like, okay, this is actually the money I make. And then this is all the cost that is there because of the kind of service you want.
Right. Associated with, I used to get questions. I would do invoicing. I still have a business where I subcontract chefs, and the clients would call me and be like, how much do you make on this as the middleman? And I always thought it was so weird they would ask me because they weren't paying for it. It would come out of the chef's fee. I would take a percentage, and a lot of people wanted to know what I was making on it. And I felt so weird. I would tell them I had nothing to hide, but I just didn't know why they wanted to know. It wasn't ever the big money clients. It was like people that did it maybe once a year for a 50th anniversary. What do you make on this? $150. Like, I'm not rich because of this thing. That was always interesting, the invoicing and the billing, but it's part of the game.
I find that funny. It's like, do you go to Starbucks and you buy a coffee and you ask how much the barista is getting?
Right. Or you call the CEO of Starbucks and say, how much do you make off of each cup of coffee?
Yeah. I find that very interesting that I don't know. I was kind of thinking about that in the context of personal trainers. Like if you have a company that places personal trainers, there's a lot of client poaching, eventually the people cut out the company and they just want to work with the trainer because maybe they like the trainer, but maybe it's 30% cheaper once you cut out the company.
Right.
And then I'm wondering, like in the context of another business, that would be rather odd. But I guess in those more personal businesses, it's so easy to like do that. And I find it so odd that seems to be more normal. I'm like, you wouldn't do that elsewhere. Like, why do you do this in this space?
No, I always think about that. You can have, whether it's a personal trainer or a personal chef that work for a company, you can have them sign something saying no soliciting, one strike rule. But what are the consequences? You take them off your platform. You're sort of harming yourself as the business owner then. But yeah, poaching always. Let's not use farm to fork chef. Let's just book through you, directly to the chef. And I would always find out, but we can get into my business later, but that was one of the things that sort of why I wound down the business. It was just becoming such a headache to keep up with those things. And I'm like a nice guy. I'm not like this psychopath that's screaming. And I was like, you know what? I always figured the cream rises to the top. And I figured that the chefs on the platform, the hardest part of getting gigs as a independent chef is the client base. So you can get solicited by a client, take your own business, but at one point it's going to dry up. And I had the contacts. So if you wanted to work, now you're going to have to beg to come back to work. It was just making it very awkward for me. But that's another story.
But I think it's very relevant. It's like, and I see that like even from an agency perspective, for example, like the value is in having the clients that want the service. And there's so many chefs who get a little bit frustrated in like this entire process of getting a job or something. But it's really like it's the people with wealth that are rare. It's not the chefs necessarily. And then obviously there is a small group of chefs that is kind of rare. It's the very experienced ones that been there, done it, that know the areas, know the locality and have the experience. So there's some rarity there. And then there's a lot of a lot more people that want to fill the job, like and the reason that I guess agencies capture the value they do is because they have the contact.
They have the contact. But it's becoming so saturated that a lot of the agencies are putting forth chefs that don't have the right experience. And they're just, because there is so many people that want to become private chefs for whatever reason. I always joke to myself, I feel like a lot of private chefs are home cooks that threw a dinner party and their friends were like, you could do this in the real world. And they're like, yeah, let me call an agency. And the agency makes 18-20% on these. So they're shooting them out there. And the chefs get to the job and they get killed. And back to square one. I think the vetting of the chefs has become really wonky, in my opinion. When I started looking for a full-time position, I remember reading the Al Martino agency, which is like from the Stone Age, and you needed like 10 years in a house to get a job. And I was like, how the hell do you do that? But I did. I mean, I made my way to do it. We could talk about it if you want. It's a house. It's not a back of the house kitchen, restaurant kitchen. So it was a transition that I had to make. I don't know if it's double-edged sword.
It is, and I think that's why it's not for everybody, because you know you have to have a certain composure, and to some people it's more natural. Like I've met some people in my career who need that interaction, that outside, and they energize of it. But to me, it wears me out. Like if you throw me in a couple social functions, by the end I'll be depleted, and I want to like hide in.
Oh yeah, same. I become like a catatonic. Like I can't even speak. Sometimes it happened to me yesterday. I was off yesterday. I woke up and I was like, today I'm not gonna be able to speak words. I'm not gonna be able to form sentences. It's hard for other people to understand too. My wife is an extrovert, so it's hard for them to decipher. I don't understand them being around people, and they don't understand me not wanting. So it's interesting.
So how do you feel like that impacted your private chef career?
I think it helped me from a discretionary side of it, because I won't speak unless spoken to, which is very good in these ultra high net. And if you don't talk to me all day, I don't need to be like, hey, did you see the news? I can really keep to myself, which helps because it's a part of the job. But then, like we were talking about, it also sort of ruined me because there are times where there's dinner parties and the guests are like, what are you making? It's the worst question. What are you making? And it's like, fuck. And then I have to be like, well, this is, so it's definitely depleting. Not only is it long hours, I don't have a private chef job where I'm cooking for 2 elderly people and I'm done by 6 o'clock. I work for, it's a large home with a lot of staff, a lot of dinner parties. So I come home and I'm like, is it the long work day or is it that I'm a mental case and that I can't talk to people? But it definitely ages me, I think. It's aged me, not only from the work, but the mental just capacity of it is really draining.
But that's a real thing for chefs. Like, and I've spoken about this quite a lot, but there's like actual insurance data around how the chef job literally ages you and kills you earlier than the average person.
Yeah, we hope. Yeah, but I can definitely see that. You burn out. I have bone on bone in my left. I'm 36, bone on bone in my left hip. I get things removed from my feet like 3 times a year. My back is shot. I wouldn't do anything else, but it beats you up.
Actually, let's go through this mentally. So you're in your mid-30s. You've already seen health decline because of the intensity of your job. But at the same time, you confidently say that you wouldn't do anything else.
Well, I can't. I don't think what would I do? I mean, because I started so young. My dream was not to become a chef. I had no dream. I don't know what. It was the kind of thing where I sucked in school. I was terrible student. ADD, OCD, dyslexic, you name it. And my father, I'm Italian American, so my father is the hardest working person I've ever met. And he was like, listen, you're not good in school. You might want to get a job. So I took a job as a dishwasher. I was born and raised in Westchester. I was born in the Bronx, but raised in Westchester County. And I took a job as a dishwasher when I was 15. My mother used to drop me off after school. She would pick me up from school. And it was about 10 minutes from my high school. And she would drop me off. And that's a job that you need no experience for.
Yeah.
It was just minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Yeah. Yeah, they're throwing pots at you. You're cleaning them with, another guy and sending them through the machine. It was awesome. It's probably my favorite job that I ever had because it's mindless. You could be
I
in
was
your
just
head,
about to
just,
say,
yeah, you form a system. I mean, it carries out into the rest of your career. You form a system, you do the plates, get used to it, and you become good at it, and you take pride in it. That's what I was always taught. Take pride in whatever you do, as far as work goes.
yeah, I think if you keep taking pride in things, you will keep improving, which you wouldn't like if you don't take pride in the dishwashing, you will always be a dishwasher. But if you take pride in it, you will
Correct.
just kind of follow the
Yeah.
trajectory, and now
Yeah.
you've cooked for some of the most well-known
Yeah.
entertainers in the world.
Yeah.
You work on estates. Like it, that taking pride in it kind of is part of the trajectory that you
I
went on.
think so. I think so because you get noticed. Hopefully you get noticed by someone around you that has experience. And I got noticed from the executive chef, Chef Michael Dolan. I would never think I would get noticed because washing dishes quickly, but he noticed, and then he says, you prep, and then the rest is
I
history.
think what it is people see if somebody's willing to put in the work. And then they're like, if you're willing to put in the work here, we can transfer that willingness to this task. And it's a higher value task
Absolutely.
for them too. And they probably also hope that you will enjoy it more because there's more recognition and probably a pay
Right.
raise and all of that comes with it.
Right. But when like for me when doing it, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just like, oh, again, being introverted, you don't speak your mind. I'm like, holy shit, like yeah, I'll do whatever. Just I'll do whatever. I wasn't like if I do this, it's gonna turn into this, this, and this, which was cool when
Yeah.
I was young because didn't think of those things. And then as you get older and you hit goals and you start thinking and saying, okay, I did this, let me do something else. And then you get convoluted. It gets very messy in the head. There's like no free flow. Too many thoughts. I remember being younger and being like, everything just kind of flowed because I said, yes, I'll do whatever. And then it was just seamlessly falling into the next position. I miss
I
being
feel like
young.
there could have been a different path for you. I don't know if you would have stepped away in between and reflected on it, or do you think it's the flow, the natural progression of how it went?
A different, I don't know. I think it wasn't luck. It wasn't who I knew. It wasn't any of that. I truly believe it was hard work. And at that
Yeah.
time, hard work was still very respected. I don't know. I guess it still is. I don't know. And I was around chefs who are very hardworking. So I think they notice in others. And I wasn't a loudmouth. I wasn't egotistical prick that would fight back or never took sick days. I still don't take sick days. My wife yells at me all the time. Use sick days to use them. I said, I'm not sick. I'm sick.
I'm not vomiting blood yet. I'm not sick.
Right. I got shot on the way to work, but I'm still going.
This is
It's
really
good and
interesting.
bad. It's good and bad.
I feel like you and me entered the kitchen when times were different and like the mindset
Yeah.
was different. And like, see, my parents very much brought me up the way you described. I'm not sick. Like if I can still walk and like
Right.
drag my body to work, like I'm still working. And my mom wouldn't give us a sick day at school for unless we were like actually vomiting, not just
Right.
once, because then the stomach is empty. You can go to school, just.
Right. Right. You're good to go.
So I feel like there was a different time, a different mentality. Hard work was valued differently and was
Yes.
seen as a prerequisite. There's a different level of toughness and yes chef kind of environment.
Yes. Yeah.
And we would just do the work. And in a similar way, like you, this kind of propelled me forward. I just kept my head
Yeah.
down and I was just surrounding
Yeah.
myself with great chefs. And I saw my skills kind of just build up naturally because
They
it was the
form.
environment that I
Yeah.
immersed myself in.
Yeah. It's the old adage, hard work pays off. That's what they say. And you learn, and we're in the field that you can learn a craft. So we're using our hands. I mean, every day get better and better. It's like working a muscle. Your knife skills get better, your timing gets better, everything. It's a constant
So what
learning
was it like
experience.
for you to move from commercial to private? Because that's when so much changes. Psychologically it
Oof.
changes, the environment changes,
Yeah.
the pay changes.
Where should I start? Should I start from the beginning?
Yeah,
Because
wherever
it's a
you feel.
long-winded tale. And I guess you edit it. It's not your regular. I'll start from the beginning. Like I said, I was terrible in high school, basically failing out. Got the job as a dishwasher when I was 15 at a place called Bronxville Field Club. It's a tennis club. Very, very. Bronxville is one of the wealthiest towns in America, I believe. While I was working there, attend high school during the day. I had a guidance counselor that knew I was terrible in school, but also found out that I was working And she was like, where are you working? And I said, it's a dishwasher. And she said, well, we offer vocational school your junior and senior year. If you're interested, there's a culinary program. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out. I wound up signing up to that. So junior year of high school, in the morning, I started going to culinary school for the first, I think, 4 or 5 periods. Then I would go to back to my regular high school, do my academics, get picked up by my mother, get dropped off as a dishwasher, and then do it all over again. I did that until, you start approaching senior year now. Everyone's looking at colleges. I'm a dishwasher. I'm good. I'm going to stay doing this. I'm making $7.25. My checks were $252 at the end of the week. I was like, I'm rich. It's living home, obviously. Then the summer came, and I didn't enroll in school, still working. And the club was closed Mondays and Tuesdays. And I would cash my check. I would always save most of it. And then I'd go to Borders bookstore, buy 2 DVDs. I'd watch one on Monday, one on Tuesday. That's all I did. Stayed home. I would read menus and things, and I'd go back to work. And then my father he didn't go to college. My mother didn't go to college. Because of his hard work, he had the means to send me to college. And I was like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do this shit anymore. And he kind of forced me to go to college. So I enrolled in the Culinary Institute of America. And at that time, you needed professional experience in the kitchen, which I had. I had the vocational school counted as well as the dishwasher. So I got accepted. I went. I lasted 6 months, dropped out. I think my father's still mad at me. He still brings up, so you didn't get the degree. And I was like, what are we doing here? So I left, and I lied to them. And I said, I'm taking a leave of absence. Because I showed up at my mother's doorstep. So what are you doing? I was like, I took a leave of absence. It's an option. And then I started looking. I was still working at Bronxville Field Club. I was now a prep cook there. I worked there. I moved my way up onto the line, garde and then I started doing sauté. And that chef told me, the food here is good. You're just not going to learn enough. You have a knack. You might want to apply for other jobs. So I was an insecure kid. I was also like 275 pounds at the time. So I started getting complimented. You have a good skill. You have good knife skills. You have a natural. So I'm like, oh, this feels good. He advised me to look for another job in another restaurant. So I searched in Tarrytown, sadly closed now. It was called Equus Castle on the Hudson.
Beautiful town.
Old castle. Beautiful, yeah. I lived in Tarrytown for a while. I'm a creature of habit. Gorgeous castle. It was like 18 rooms, really beautiful restaurant, and they did catering. So I legit went to the back door of that restaurant. I had like my Victorinox knives. I had like 2 of them. And I was like, could I get a job? It was so different then, right? It was so weird. Went to the back door of the kitchen. And the chef, they always need cheap labor. So I worked there. Probably the best experience I've ever had, the most learned. We used to get German chefs from Germany on visas, and they would come, and they were the coolest guys, no ego, insanely talented, older than me, but young guys. And I just worked next to these people. They were rock stars. They lived on the property because they would house them, and it was a brigade style kitchen, gorgeous. Everything was copper and pristine. And then that's what I thought a restaurant kitchen looked like until I went to Manhattan. But learned so much from there. I went to Aqua Grill in Soho, 210, also sadly closed during the pandemic. Iconic place in the city. Now I went from this big, gorgeous copper brigade style kitchen to a basement in Soho, and the pipes were right here leaking, and people sabotaging your prep. At the castle, none of that happened. It was, very militant and no messing around. I was there for about a year, and then I wanted to go to another brigade style kitchen because I'm like, that's awesome. Who else in the city has it? And Oceana at the time had it when it was in the brownstone on 55th Street. Now it moved. So I went back to the brigade because I think that's having OCD, that layout of a kitchen relaxes my mind. It's sort of neat and it's square and it has a good flow. And I was there for about a year and a half. Commuting to the city sucked as a young chef because my hours were like 14 hours, and then the train times were weird. Couldn't drive into the city. That's when I would advise by a sous chef at Oceana that, this place called the Hamptons, they have really good restaurants. And I was like, all right, I've never been there. Then you start searching, and I came across a place called 1770 House. It's like a 9-room boutique hotel, one of the best restaurants in the Hamptons. It still is. Called them, this is the winter, 16 years ago. And they were like, yeah, we're hiring for the season. come out and do a stage. So I went out like February. They gave me a room. I did a 2-night stage. They offered me the job. They're like, you can start in April. The season will be April to Thanksgiving. But if we like you, we'll keep you on. I said, all right, great. Stage, got the job. They're like, we're paying $22 an hour. I'm like, what? But I had no place to live. I didn't tell them that, though. I did a lot of that, not telling people that I had no place to live in the Hamptons, which comes back to me later in my career. Get the job. I start. Chef's cool, very tiny kitchen, insanely busy in the summer. We had 2 people on garde manger, 2 on sauté, and the executive chef would expedite. Chef comes up to me maybe mid-June. Was like, listen, I'm taking 2 weeks off. My wife's having a baby. So I'm like, okay. Again, yes man. The yes man. Oh, okay. He's like, you're gonna take over. I was like, okay. What? Like, what? In the middle of the summer. Threw me to the wolves. Dude takes 2 weeks off. 2 weeks come and go. He's not back, so I talk. Being the church mouse, I was like, I have to say something. Went to the GM. I'm like, listen, is Chef, is he coming back? No. Quit. Dude quit. So now I'm stuck in the kitchen, 21 at this time, 21 years old. So I'm not, I'm going to get through this season. Like, there's no way I'm going to quit, but I'm going to get through this season. Got my ass handed to me. And I remember the garde manger, 2 Spanish guys, really cool guys. They would be like, why do you want to cook? I don't know if you're going to cut this out. They're like, you're white. Why do you want to cook? And I was like, I don't know. Like, why? I don't know anything else. And they were like, you're really good. Why do you want to do this? So that always sticks in my head. So the season's winding down. One of the last weeks at 1770 House, a young guy came to the back door of the kitchen. He had a short sleeve chef coat on, jeans, and sneakers. And he was asking where the chef was. I said, he's not here. I didn't want to say he left. I said, he's not here right now. Leave me your name and I'll let him know. As that's happening, the GM walks in, recognizes the guy, chats with him, and he leaves. And to the GM, I said, who was that? And he was like, he was a sous chef here. And I was like, what restaurant does he work in now? And he goes, no, he's a private chef. And I was like, I don't know what does that mean? And he was like, he works in a house. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking. Like, I don't know. What? You work in a house? I didn't know what wealth was.
Yeah.
He cooks for a family. I was like, he wears jeans and sneakers. And then being the OCD, this went into my head. 21 years old, I'm like, how do I become that guy? I was more interested in who the hell needs a chef in their house and who has the means to pay for that. No Wi-Fi in the cottage. So I would go back to the cottage, get my car, drive to Starbucks, sit on the curb because it was closed after I got out of work. It's 11 o'clock. And Google private chef jobs NYC. Again, Al Martino's agency. 10 years experience needed. Like, how am I going to do this? Season's now over. But now there's private chefs around here. I have to stick around here. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to stick around here. So I applied for a job at West Hampton Country Club. There was an opening. I applied, and maybe 10 minutes later, I get a call from the chef saying, you can have the job. And I was like, I had an interview. He said, you worked at Aqua Grill. I used to work there. Anyone that worked there can work here. So I started working there, and I did breakfast from 6 to 3. It was a breakfast shift. Anthony Marzliano was the chef. One of the best guys. We still keep in touch. He was an Italian guy. He worked in the same restaurant. He had no ego. And I said, I want to become a private chef. Now, this is a country club with VIPs. And he was like, a lot of the time they ask us to cook in their houses. And contractually, I can't, but you can. So now I'm getting my foot in the door with these members in their houses. And that's really how it started. Now I'm getting that in-home, in-resident experience. And I took that back to Westchester County. I left the Hamptons. And I said, there's some money in Westchester. Let me go back to Westchester and do that. And I did. I quit restaurants and I started working for my father to make income. He was a Monday through Friday. He does hardwood flooring. So it's like really a labor-intensive job. I said, Dad, I'm going to work with you, but I'm going to start my business. And being an old school guy, he was like, yeah, it's not going to work out, but you can work with me. I was like, okay. So I worked with him Monday to Friday, and I would go to the Castle on the Hudson in Tarrytown with a flyer that I typed, former junior sous chef Castle on the Hudson could cook in your home. And I would go during dinner service with the Bentleys and the Rolls Royce, and slowly but surely I would get calls. And again, I didn't expect much. The calls came to the point where I said, Dad, I gotta go. Like, thanks for the job, but it's busy enough. And then that rolled into these clients have friends in Manhattan. Now I'm cooking for them. Now these Manhattanites start saying, hey, we have a house in the Hamptons. Could you cook out there? I said, yeah. And they said, the only problem is we have no place for you to stay. I said, that's no problem. I got a place. At this time, I was not with that girl, so I didn't have a place to stay. But I would say, yeah, I wasn't saying no to work. There's 2 summers back to back where I slept in my truck the whole week. East Hampton has a public beach that had showers and sinks. So I would do my gig, go to my truck, go shower, and sleep in my truck at the truck stop in Hampton Bays. Shower, brush my teeth, sleep in my truck. And then I got caught by a client because I opened my trunk to get my groceries and pillows fell out. Now I had a rapport with this client. So she's like, Dante, are you moving? I said, no. Just pillows. You sleeping in your car? So I said, yeah. I said, it's pretty cool. I like to be alone. And then it became super, knock on wood, super busy. I was booked 7 days a week. This was before private chefing became like known. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like now with TikTok and their chefs, grilling shit and posting. Like, it didn't exist. There was a company called Kitchen Surfing that had just popped up. So this is the point in my life where, I say I didn't have any good luck. This was like a timing thing that was good luck. And Kitchen Surfing was a platform that connected chefs to consumers. And they reached out to me and they said, we'd like to we saw I think it was my LinkedIn, and we'd like to meet you. I cooked. Long story short, I was on that platform. I went from being the new guy to like one of the most booked. So now I integrated my own clients with their clients. I was happy to pay Kitchen Surfing's fee just to get my word out there. They had this startup money that, they're doing promotions with Uber. I cooked for like Uber one time in the Hamptons. Like an Uber would drive me to different houses and I would cook and go to another Uber to another house. So I was getting my name out there. And I got like a gig with Blade. Blade was brand new. Helicopter. I cooked in their lounge.
Yep.
I charged nothing. All I wanted was a ride from the city to the Hamptons because I had work in the Hamptons. So like food cost, no labor, give me a lift to the Hamptons. And super busy. Kitchen Surfing, there was rumblings that it was gonna go under. So at that time, I sort of saw the writing on the wall, and I peeled away from Kitchen Surfing, and I took a position with Madonna. Yeah, which was interesting. I worked with her, and that rolled right into my longest client was Jimmy Buffett for like 7 years. He sadly passed away last September. A great guy, but I had some interesting times with them. Very, very fun. And now we're here.
That sometimes comes with proximity, interesting times. Like you experience things, and like some of them are cool, and others you wish you wouldn't be that close.
Yes, for sure.
So were you still with the family when he passed?
I was not. Left about 6 months before, just because the travel was. I had gotten married, so I was on the road like 10 months out of the year, and I couldn't do it anymore. It was a rock star schedule without the rock star salary. So I said, I can't, I got to get off the road. My mental health was declining. I was different time zones. I'd be in 3 different time zones in 1 week. It was crumbling. So I had to get out.
Yeah, the more I understand about health, the more crazy I find the chef lifestyle or the travel, whether you're in commercial or even especially travel chef, like you're just asking for trouble. If you do that long enough, like your body will hand you the bill.
100%. 100%. You think you're invincible in your 20s.
Yeah.
You feel good, but you start to wither, man. You start to break down.
I remember in my 20s, we used to go on travel or something, or go to the Middle East for work, and then, 16-hour flight, touchdown, straight into the kitchen, rock it out over the weekend, flying back to the United States. And in between, we would like go out to bars, and I'm like, today, I'm just like, how did that even work, man? Like, hey, I'm like, just a flight alone will kill me. Forget about everything else around me.
Yeah. If I have too much coffee now, I'm like having a panic attack in the corner. So yeah, I don't know how.
It's very fun, but it's like you said, in your early 20s, mid 20s, you feel completely invincible.
Yeah.
And then slowly it starts creeping in. And now, like the guys that I still see working on the highest level have a very solid routine around their work that keeps them sane, that, they're doing something athletic, they're taking care of their dietary needs and stuff to be able to perform on that level.
And kudos to them. My hat's off to them. Because that's difficult to do. I couldn't do that. I'm too obsessive compulsive to do that. The routine. Yeah. Kudos to them. Those
Yeah,
yacht chefs.
you gotta take care of it. I think yacht chefs are the ones who really they're really blown their brains out in a way.
I don't know how they do that. I worked on a yacht for Jimmy for 3 weeks, and the crew was awesome. They were from Istanbul, but it was hard, man. Hard. It was in Greece. I couldn't get food. It was tough. God bless those yacht people. They offered me a job. The Istanbul captain was like, you don't pay taxes. Work for us." I was like, dude, I can't be out to sea for 6 months. I'll go crazy.
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the toughest jobs in the restaurant. It's like either working on a large cruise ship. Like the couple chefs I knew that were working on cruise ships, they all ended up to be like depressed alcoholics. Like they needed like a serious recovery coming back from those trips. And then I think the yachties also they've really chosen a very very tough one there. And I don't know
That's
how
a
they do
fast
it.
life. No.
And then I think travel chef, like actually being on the road the way you and I were for quite some time, that's a tough cookie. And I think that once you mellow down, you just work at an estate and maybe occasional travel.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I say it when I interview. I say, listen, I'm not going anywhere for more than 2 weeks, no more than like 3 times a year, because I can't live out of a suitcase anymore.
Yeah, and I think this is where people need to be aware that there are seasons to their career. There's like your early time in your 20s, mid 20s, maybe where you have the experience and the willingness and juice in your bones, and you're not married yet, you're not tied down yet, you don't have kids yet or any of that, no liabilities, and that's a time to enjoy and travel and like really take those experiences in.
Yes.
And then there will be another stage of your life where it will cost you a lot if you want to hold on to that. Like you have a very hard time finding a spouse that's cool with you being on the road.
Yeah, I've lost many relationships in the travel when I was traveling. Chose my job, but yeah.
Yeah. That's just tough. And I think this is where young chefs, like if let's say you were speaking to yourself, like right around the time you dropped out of maybe culinary school, what would you tell yourself for you? Kind of like how would you go about the career?
Like knowing what I know, I don't know. Because I think back, I wouldn't be able to do it again if I had to. Like if someone rewound the clock, it was like, start from here. But I knew what was ahead of me, I would say, I'm not doing that. That's where that blindness with no expectations was handy. I think I would have told my younger self to take care of yourself better, to put yourself first in some instances. But then maybe you wouldn't have got here. I think I think the journey is.
I think that's where it gets really tricky.
It's weird because as much as I would go back and say, don't drop out of school, go to business school, and do that, I wouldn't be able. I couldn't sit at a desk. I wanted to be a race car driver. That's what I really wanted to do. Like that was my dream when I was a kid, like a stunt car driver. Take better care of yourself for sure. That's what I would say. Maybe work some yoga and don't smoke, sleep more.
I feel like I'm in a way talking to myself here, where it's like I have like all these extremes, but then I also know like part of these extremes got me the experience that I had, that I went through, and like just like having the attitude of head down, and like a word meant something.
Yeah, invaluable experience.
But all of those come from that extreme. It came from not seeking balance. It came from being completely out of whack. Like if I would have approached my life early on with like trying to have balance and like sleeping and all of those things, I would have never lasted in those jobs.
No.
So it's in a weird way, you need to be out of balance to go above and beyond an experience.
I think it comes with how you were raised, what values were instilled. That for me, it was everything. If I was 14 years old, you're going through puberty, you need more rest. If I slept past like 7:30 a.m., my mom would be like, "What are you, lazy? What are we doing?" So now, like, I have anxiety if I sleep past like a certain, which is good and bad because it gave me a great work ethic. But I'm killing myself, like slowly, which I made peace with in a way. Like, this is how I'm built. I'm not going to go to a yoga retreat and change the way my brain is wired. But you start to see, like, that's what makes me a nut. I'm a nut job. I'm a nice person. I wouldn't hurt anyone or anything, but like, destroying myself.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't change it.
You know, the
What am I gonna
entire
do?
tire industry is figuring out where that drama started. It's like, okay, now I have this drama, I'm aware of it. I'm like, okay, what am I
Yeah,
doing with it?
right.
But in a way, it also served us.
Yeah. Oh, it served us. I thank my father. I'm going to see him later today, and he's my like hero. He's from the ground up entrepreneur, and like I thank him for making me a nut job.
I find it very funny that for him it was more important that you have the degree than, now
Yeah,
instead of having the degree, you have the kind of the success, the accolades, you have the
yeah,
experience. You even have the
yeah,
names like of very
yeah.
like celebrity status kind of clients. But he's like, he didn't get the
The
degree.
degree. Maybe because he didn't get one, or maybe it's just the baby boomers. He's 70 years old. Maybe they don't really like to give credit too much, so they're like, "Let me find that one thing that you don't have. Let me just
Yeah.
sing that." And I understand. When I was younger, I was like, "This guy, is he proud of me? I don't know." That generation wasn't lovey-dovey and "good job, kid." He would say, Yeah, that's now. That's now. Good luck
Yeah.
to anyone that is used to getting a participation medal as a kid and then wanting to become a chef, because you'll get eaten alive. Different, but yeah, it's different now.
Yeah. I feel like, see, one of my cousins, he's just 7, 8 years younger than me. I feel like he is already a different generation mentally. There's already
No,
something significantly different, and I'm not sure if it's, I guess he grew up with technology already different than me. Like, we
yeah,
didn't have
then you and I.
smartphones.
Yeah,
Like, I got a smartphone when I was an adult.
I got one in my first year
So,
of college. It was a flip phone.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
it's
think
definitely that.
I still went through a normal childhood,
Right.
where that wasn't part of social interaction or entertainment. And I think I feel like somewhere around that time when iPhones came out and smartphones, and when kids started having them, I feel like
Yeah,
there's a clear shift in social norms.
1,000%. I mean, if you drive around where I grew up, when I was a kid, me and my friends would be in this certain park like every day. If I drive near my mother's now, there's no kids, and they don't ride bikes.
Mm,
They're
yeah.
on their phones. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know what you're looking at. But we used to be out throwing broken glass at each other. It's that's 100% is the social media, screen time. The, they're like dead-eyed little monsters. These kids.
But it also it sets up expectations like crazy. And I'm like looking at statistics, where, for example, if you look at the average income of an American household, and if you make like these are rough numbers that I just looked
Yeah,
at a statistic yesterday, and it's from like 2018, I think. So if you make around 160-ish in 2018, you were like in the top 5% of households, which, I think, if you use social media a lot, you just think that you should earn that money and more, because you
right.
like, there's all kinds of, I don't know, hypes out there, and there's all kinds of tech jobs out there, and it gives people that idea that the life that they should be having based on what they see online versus the
Right,
life that they're living. And there's
right.
like this big in the
Mhm.
perception, and they're like, immediately, I think there's like a generation that largely feels like they're complete losers, because somebody
Because
built
they're
an app
not.
and suddenly they're super rich, and then they don't realize that, I mean, there's different components to that, but even out of the business people that actually build something, only a few make it.
Right.
There's only a handful of those who turn super super big, but
Yeah.
everybody has the perception that that's what should happen to them in a way, or that's
Their
the lifestyle that
expectations.
should attain.
That's sad.
And it kind of prevents them from starting with basic work. I'm like, okay, I'll get my ass to work and I'll start washing dishes,
Right.
because
I'll
they know
formally,
that
yeah,
the
I'll learn
gap
how to
between
talk to
washing
people.
dishes and seeing what they have on social media is so big. They're like, that's not going to close it. So where do I even start?
Right. That's a huge point. Like what I said, like being blind when I was a kid, that's as far as not having an expectation for
Yeah.
myself helped.
I'm more concerned about every other kid feeling like a loser, and you see that in the
Yeah.
data. It's like, I think social media drives them into a kind of realm of depression because of all of that
Yeah.
comparison. There's
Anxiety.
so much. The algorithm builds desire and expectation that they themselves don't know how to fill. They don't know how to even work themselves there and close the
And
gap,
and
and the
they're and
gap
they're
exists mentally.
and they're absorbing it at a time that their brain is malleable still.
Yeah.
They're becoming that. I feel worse for these young girls that they have to look a certain way, and that must be horrible to think that's what beauty is, And like you said with the career thing, that's wild to think about, that you're seeing these
I
expectations, and how am I ever going to get there? You're giving up before
I
you
think
even start.
beauty is the same thing. I think like before you the examples were basically in your community, and there's an interesting statistic. It's
Right.
like the biggest predictor about kind of your financial success in your life is actually the zip code you're born in. So if you were surrounded by wealthier
Wow.
people early on, you're more
Yeah.
likely to pursue different sized opportunities. Like you wouldn't, like if everybody around you works in finance, you wouldn't go drive an
Right.
Uber.
You wouldn't think small. There's a I think he's a psychologist, Bruce Lipton, and he talks about like growing up around. You could be an idiot and have a father that is a wealthy entrepreneur, and you subconsciously just pick it up and you become that.
Yeah.
And then, if you grew up
The
in a
interesting
household
thing is that you will just like, oh, yeah, like, okay, this is what I've seen. This is what it just becomes more of the natural expression of what you've
second
seen over
nature.
the last
Yeah.
10 years. And then
Yeah.
on the flip side, if you have poor parents with a poor mindset who just tell
Same.
yourself all kinds of limitations, you will kind of
Right.
inherit that. And it's very hard to
100%.
consciously break out of that.
Yeah, well, it's learned. And it's what the kid. I have 3-month-old now, so they absorb. So everything that they hear is learned. Like we can't afford that. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and
Yeah.
I learned a lot from it. And it's, rich people don't say we can't afford that. It's how can we afford it, and that's just
How long ago did you read it?
I've read it, like, it's the only book I've ever read cover to cover. I probably read it 6 times. The first time was 2016, and it pushed me to buy my first condo. It kind of gave me the balls to do it.
Nice.
And I still listen to Robert Kiyosaki, and yeah, I know you and I over email talked about the real estate investing. That is it's tiny, but it's a dream of mine. I like to set goals, and
I think
also for the
this is
sustainability of my career.
It's the only way you have sustainability without killing yourself. I think every chef needs to think about this kind of exit strategy because sometimes in the Hamptons, like I go to Cinderella or something, and I see chefs that can barely track the groceries to their car, and I'm like, you didn't set yourself up for success. Like if you still got to do this because you need the paycheck.
You and I think exactly the same, because I would be in Cinderella, see these guys that are like, should not be cooking for 30 people that night. And I was young enough to be like, I'm not going to be that guy. And if I am, someone just shoot me when I'm not looking, because I can't. That's no life to live as a 60-year-old dude. And that's where the real estate came in from. In my early 20s, that was like, I'm going to try to do that as an exit strategy, like you said. I watched my father do it too. He never sat me down and said, let me teach you some lessons. But I had the wherewithal to sort of pay attention to what he was doing or listening to him. I used to sit under his desk. He would be doing invoicing and listen to him. Must have picked some stuff up because I'm trying to follow in his footsteps. And I did obtain some real estate, and it feels good for the moment. And then they say that the finish line moves. So sort of on to the next thing.
I mean, it does. If you think about it, when we started our career, and like the same way that you had your weekly salary as a dishwasher, and initially you feel rich. I remember when I got my first couple. I remember one time I worked at a bakery when I was 14 or 15, and I worked through the entire Christmas season, just those 2-week period before Christmas. And and the guy gave me like $50 back then, and I was so happy, man. And in hindsight, man, like I worked 2 weeks for
it. But it was recognition.
Yeah. And then the other day I found a couple pay slips of my first job, and then I realized that I used to make in almost the first 3 years of my career what I make in summer in the Hamptons. Not in the summer, in a month in the Hamptons. And I'm like, this is just insane how that changed, but it's like you say, the goalpost kind of does keep moving. But I do think there is a level where money makes less of a difference, and it's more about freedom. And I think we also see that in other industries. It's like the other day I read a comment from the CEO of JetBlue where he said pilots don't want to have $500,000 salaries and not see their family. They want to have work-life balance. They want to have a six-figure salary, but be home for life events with their family and stuff. And they don't want to be on the road all the time. So I think that there is an understanding at some point in life that it's not going to cut it. Like, nobody's going to give you a medal of honor when you fall dead at work and having missed all of the key events
Important moments,
your kids went through or your family went through. And I think this is super crucial to kind of get that straight earlier than not, because like I met a butler in spring this year who literally gave his life to a family. And then, you speak to him and he sounds like he's happy with it. But I think on a deeper level, there is some emptiness where he doesn't have any personal relationship. He doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a spouse. As much as these families allow you to become part of the family, it's not your family, and it will never be. No. And I think that's fairly clear. So I think like you got to be conscious of it.
100%. You have to have, like you said, an exit strategy. And I don't think a lot of people do. I think they live day to day and they don't think about the long term, especially in a high burnout profession that is not sustainable on your body or your mind.
I mean, chances are pretty high that you don't make it through retirement.
Oh, no way. And then this is the shit that keeps me up at night. It also keeps me diligent in saving money and making sure to do the right things with it. And now I have a kid, so I have to think about that. But this is how crazy workaholic I am. I didn't take maternity leave, and everyone was like, "What do you mean you take maternity leave?" I was like, "I can't take maternity leave. I'll lose my job." And I got lashed for saying that, but that's how I think, which is not right. I don't think that's
but it's also sometimes it's very hard. It's an ongoing conversation. Like the other day, Jenny from one of the agencies, she posted that like, what is a reasonable pay time? Yeah, what is a reasonable? Yeah, she's great. What is a reasonable time paid off? And then in the US, the standard is kind of they throw you 2 weeks. And if you really have a family, if you want to take care of your mental health, your physical health, and occasional family occasions, 2 weeks is nothing. And meanwhile, you work for people who on a regular basis travel for weeks and months, and then they're like, oh, here's 2 weeks. I'm like, well, see, I'm from Europe where my siblings, they have like 6 weeks, and then they have like all these perks on top. So basically you can push it to 8 weeks or more. I don't quite need that, but maybe let's talk about 4 weeks or somewhere where
4 is nice.
We can talk about having a life outside of work, and then you already expect us to work all the holidays.
Oh yeah, and 2 weeks straight. So I'll work the entire last 3 weeks of August, like straight. So, and 2 weeks off. 5 of those days, you're coming out of your introverted hole of like being depleted. So you're just waking up after 5-6 days. So you're right.
I remember that one summer, we flew to the Rockies and they had an event, a lot of entertaining, man. I was making breakfast people were sitting at the counter with me in the morning already. I'm like, right down my alley, talking over like eggs and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like, welcome. And I had that for like a bit over a week, and then flew straight back into the Hamptons for 4th of July weekend and full on entertaining. And so that after 2 weeks, I was so like, I was done. I've worked with one family for the longest period who they weren't around a whole lot, and they didn't want to make like some conversation with me. So it really depends on who do you work for. There's families who want to be really engaged, and like when they ask you about the menu, they want you to be very excited and use many words, and that's really tough for me. And I've spoken about this before, like to paint this picture vividly for them. I understand the importance of it for my job, but it's nothing that comes natural to me.
Yeah, no.
It's something that I've trained myself into. I can do it in that moment, but it costs, it's like I have to throw in a couple extra coins in that moment to make it work. I'm very happy by myself, very happy being alone. It fills my tank to be alone, and my wife is like yours is the opposite. She constantly reminds me that she wants to meet people and see and be involved. And I'm like, if you let me sit by myself for a week, I'm perfectly happy.
Same. Does your wife understand when you say, hey, babe, I need a minute?
Obviously, it takes some initial understanding that not everybody thrives at the same, the funny thing is, so she's Indian, her family's Indian, so they're super involved
Yeah.
and super community. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we go over there, for me, it's a lot. It's like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get myself a hotel room here for some time and just recover.
Be alone. Yeah. My wife's Spanish, so it's very family oriented. You go to a party and there's music and I'm just like, I'm gonna be shot after this. But I ain't. You wouldn't if you didn't know I was introverted. Then you would never guess it because I can blend in like a chameleon. I've had 36
Yeah.
years experience acting, but I'd much rather be
I mean, for
in
me,
the
it's
basement.
I just need to be willing to participate in the event, and then I can put
Right.
myself out there and
Right.
and just know that there is a spot on the map where I can be alone.
Good. I'm gonna steal that from you. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna use that.
Well, Dante, this has been super interesting. Where can people connect with you, find out more about you?
So I got rid of social media because of some stuff that we were talking about. I have a
Yeah.
LinkedIn. It's Dante Giannini and a website farmtoforkchef.com. If you Google me, there's some cool articles that I did when I was younger, a bunch of interviews. I cook for some really cool people. I love when people email me questions. I will be doing up an Instagram page that my wife will run when my son starts to eat. I'm going to be cooking for him. So that's going to be in the works.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah.
This is actually going to be interesting for chefs too, because I think in a private environment, people are always wondering like, what can we eat? What can we feed the kids, and what do they actually eat?
Right. It's going to be fun. There's another guy that does it, and his little boy eats everything, and I think it's the coolest page ever. And I hope my son is the same. He'll be the critic. And they're honest. They're brutally honest, which is what I love. He might be like, this tastes like shit.